Thank you. Good morning. Pura vida. Pura vida. Thank you for coming to this week's Dharma Talk here at beautiful Bali Rica, in beautiful Costa Rica, and on the internet. We're going to start this session with a meditation guided by Lisa Virtue.
Rudy.
Yay! So now, ding again. We don't have a dinger today. See, we have a neophyte dinger and a prince dinger. Okay.
All right, so let's close our eyes. Just centering, let yourself get heavy in your seat, grounding to the earth, settling into this space and time here, inviting your thoughts to be present here now. And we'll also invite a wave or a waterfall of relaxation pouring over and through us, cascading through our head, releasing and relaxing all the muscles through our face and our head, down through our neck and our shoulders, relaxing everything in our arms, our hands and fingers, our chest and our back, our midsection, our abdomen and lower back, down in our hips, our bum, our upper leg, your knees, your lower legs, your ankles, feet, and toes. Getting that first layer of tension to release. Inviting our mind to release its grips and its holding, its fears, its worries, its doubts. All of these things, the mental things, the physical things, like pieces of dirty laundry in a pile. And so we're inviting that washing through of the relaxation, and we're removing pieces of dirty laundry from that pile. It's getting smaller and smaller. Again, a wash through of relaxing. And as you're removing those pieces of laundry, you realize they've been covering up something underneath. They've been covering up your peace that is by nature always there. It just gets covered in dirty laundry. So as you peel away, releasing these things that have covered it, it just naturally is there. So we're not having to bring the piece from outside. We're uncovering the piece that's always there. So as we sit in silence for a little while, if you notice that your mind is being taken up by something, just think of it as a little piece of dirty laundry, and you just let it go for now. You clear it away and let that piece arise again. Focusing on that piece that has been underneath. Your breath can carry pieces of laundry as well. deep breath in. Bring yourself fully back into your body. Again, feeling down into your grounded connection with your seat and the earth. And slowly open your eyes.
Thank you, Lisa. I just envision throwing dirty socks out of my basket of all kinds of things. Okay, let's begin today where we left off last week with Jeff's talk on the 5 hindrances. Now, I know we have at least one person here for the first time, so I will explain that the 5 hindrances are impediments, obstacles, challenges, problems as we travel on the Eightfold Path to enlightenment. And enlightenment is defined as liberation from suffering and the realization of a lasting happiness. We've been looking at the Dharma through this lens for several weeks now. And there are a couple of things that I want to relate to last week's talk, but they're different. First is this. Instead of just the 5 bowls of hindrance, I want to focus initially on the bowl of enlightenment. That's a big bowl, if you can envision it, of water so pure that it doesn't even appear to be there unless something causes it to manifest itself. It is totally pure. It is free of all the defilements. And because it is totally pure, totally free of defilements, it gives you a perfect reflection of your true self. In Buddhism, our true self is known as Buddha nature. Buddhism does not have a creator God. It has divine energy. And this divine energy is pure energy. It's creative. Now, energy comes in 2 ways, positive and negative. For anything to be created, it comes from positive energy. Negative energy destroys. It does not create. So while your Judeo-Christian groups, religions, whatever, have a creator God, Buddhists have a creator energy, and these may seem to be different, and in some respects they are. Buddhists remember where Christians, for example, repent. Buddhists do not have salvation. They have remembrance of who they truly are, and that is described as a pure light, a pure radiance, which when you look into the bowl of enlightenment, you see it manifests. And we are created from this emptiness this completely transparent energy. We manifest from it and its radiance, and we return to it. Okay? So there is no original sin. There is ignorance, not sin. And in the ultimate sense, where this seems to be different, it comes together perfectly in the idea of creative energy. Because if you have positive and negative energy, anything that is created comes from positive energy, and we call that love. That is love. So if you come from the Judeo-Christian background, God is love. If you come from Eastern traditions, the energy is the truth. Love is the truth at the core of energy. So Deepak Chopra said it best, I think. Uh, Love is the truth at the heart of all creation. All right? So as we look into this bowl of clear water, which reflects back to us our enlightened self, and we are on the path headed towards enlightenment. It may take us many lifetimes, but we're going to get there if we can. That's another thing we have. We get do-overs, lots and lots of do-overs, and so you can, you keep going. You don't end up at one point and then have a judgment. So there are differences, but ultimately the most important thing is that they're both based on creative love. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's where you're headed. And now we look to the 5 bowls that affect your ability to see your own true nature. And the first one is inappropriate desire, sensory desire.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a bowl that you pour dye into. And now when you look into your bowl, you can't see yourself. There's no reflection there. It's just colors. So that's taking you away from your true self. The next bowl is ill will, and it is boiling water. It's bubbling. So now you got one that's a dye and it's bubbling. And that's not very nice either. You've stepped a little bit farther away from your enlightenment. And the third bowl is green and algae slimy. And it's because you have lost your spirit. You are filled with sloth, dullness, laziness. You don't care. You are not a radiant light anymore. Your energy is dimming. Now it has been said that depression is not just sadness. It's a loss of vitality. So with sloth and torpor, you're beginning to just congeal. You're losing your vitality. So we don't like that bowl. And the fourth bowl is turbulent. I think the Buddha describes it as windswept. But I kind of like the idea, it's like your washing machine. It's just turbulent. And you can't see anything through it. Too much stuff is going on. And the final one is the one I think we should address today. Is Marjorie here today?
Mm-hmm.
Marjorie brought this up. And this is where we ended. No, this is where we ended our conversation at the end of the day, and it truly, personally affects all of us. The fifth bowl is the bowl, the hindrance of doubt. And the Buddha describes doubt as mud. You get stuck in the mud. You can't see through it. It obscures everything and it's nasty and you get stuck in it. So there you have the hindrances that the Buddha outlined. And as we talk about doubt, I would like to add one more hindrance, or before we talk about doubt. Everybody with me? Can you see the bowls? You figured out which bowls are your bowls? You know, and can you figure out that once these defilements are removed, the water gets clear. Each time you remove a defilement, this is why we talk about the fact that renunciation, letting go of things, is more important than acquiring things in Buddhism. You're going to let go of your anger. You're going to let go of these things that are causing you to have a really dirty bowl. Okay. If it's not there anymore, it's just not there anymore, and the water's clear. Anyway, getting back to doubt. And before doubt, I want to mention one other before I forget it. When the Dalai Lama first arrived in the United States, he went to a Science and Mind conference, and the papers being read were written by psychologists. And he didn't speak any English, so he had his interpreter, whose name I can't remember. He's a lovely man. And he was interpreting, and he told Dalai Lama what the psychologist was talking about. And he told the Dalai Lama, they're talking about self-loathing. And the Dalai Lama said, no, there's no such thing. But you must be mistaken. The self can't loathe itself. That's impossible. And so his interpreter said, yeah, that's what they're talking about. And then they talked about problems with mothers. And the Dalai Lama said, you must be mistaken. People don't hate their mothers. That's impossible. So we're talking 2,600 years. And I think self-loathing is in a way affiliated with doubt. Because doubt comes in two packages. It comes in skepticism, doubt of things out there, and it comes as self-doubt. The third noble truth says that we have a cessation of suffering because we have choice. We have free will. But let's face it, when you have free will and choice, you have to make decisions. We live in a dualistic world. We can't escape that. We're moving to enlightenment, which is non-dual. Everything is unified. It's one. But we live in a dualistic world where everything has an opposite. So you spend your days making choices. What do I eat? What do I wear? Who do I see? Where do I go? Choice, 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 choice. And with choices, there comes uncertainty, which is another word for doubt. Did I make the right decision? Should I do this or should I do that? So we have this built in. We cannot escape it. When it becomes doubt, it has serious consequences. Talked about last week. T.S. Eliot's character in the Four Quartets, J. Alfred Prufrock, who was so filled with doubt that he stood there and he said, "Do I dare to eat a peach?"
Yeah.
You know, he's really caught up. You become literally paralyzed with the inability to make even the most basic decisions sometimes. So it is natural to have doubt, but there's healthy doubt and there's unhealthy doubt. Now, one of the most appealing things about Buddhism is the offer right up front to be skeptical. The Buddha makes an immediate point of saying, do not take anyone's word for anything. Don't take anything on blind faith. Because the only way that you can actually know something without doubt is by living it. It's experiential. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I have trouble with that word. I want to add an extra syllable. But anyway, experiential. Anyway, unless you experience it, you are always doubtful. It is only when you have proved it to yourself, because you have lived it, that you are free of all uncertainty about something. So uncertainty is going to be with you at all times, but you don't want to be paralyzed by it. And how many people have experienced what Marjorie's talking about? A lot of self-doubt. And how do you handle it? Let's ask the expert.
Oh, now you're turning to me.
So,
Well, it's both embracing it and releasing it. You have to own it before you can release it. Identify it, release it, replace it.
that's your realize,
Recognize,
recognize,
release.
release, and replace.
Yeah. One of the ways of saying it, yeah.
Can you give a specific on how you might, something we might do for that?
Sure. If
What's a
as it
common
relates
self-doubt?
to doubt,
Well,
yes.
to anybody, just a common self-doubt.
Body image.
Body image.
okay. So you own that you have a body image problem. You observe it.
You doubt it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You observe it.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to use a different, besides the 3 thing, I'm going to use the 4 thing that is actually clearly more Buddhist. You observe it. Try as neutrally as you can. It is what it is at this current moment in me. Let's say it's a negative body image.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you analyze it. Where does that come from? Why is this important to me? You answer those questions intuitively. Then now you've owned it. That's the 2 that are about owning it. And then the choice is that what part of that am I going to pay attention to? For example, okay, maybe I'll go on a walk every afternoon and I'll be healthy. I do this at 50, which is quite a few years ago. I would go to the gym. Now I go on a walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it seems more appropriate. And my body image, this is a more realistic set of choices for me. So then I make the choice, and then hopefully you follow through on your action with it. So you've done this process of owning it by observing it, by analyzing it, and then you come to choice. And then of course, if your choices only lead you to thinking about what you'll do, you'll never walk the mountain.
Right.
So then there has to be a discipline of following through with that action. And when you do that process, it doesn't seem doubtful to me.
No. Well, I think the Dharma way of it is to say, first of all, you have to suspend disbelief. You have to say, okay, I have to have principles. If I'm skeptical about something, I have to have principles, and then I have to have practices, which kind of fits in with sort of saying the same thing as you are.
Absolutely.
So you can say, okay, I have a hindrance. I have anger. Okay, I don't want anger. That's a principle. But this is not good for me. So the practice that is recommended is loving kindness. So I can say, all right, I'm skeptical that this is going to work. I've been angry all my life. I'm probably not going to change, but it's worth a try. And I know if I go to the talks every week, Ruthie's going to take us right through it. So at least I'll hear it at least once a week. But I will do loving kindness meditation. Even if it's really simple, I will say to myself, today may I have happiness and the causes of happiness. Just that. But I will do it whether I'm skeptical, but whether I believe it's going to work or not, I'm going to wait and see what happens. And I'm going to do this for 3 months, 6 months. Some people say I need to go to a cave and sit there for 2 years. But I'm going to give it a shot.
An experiment.
Without judgment. Because now you have engaged mindfulness. I'm going to be aware that I am skeptical, and I'm going to try this practice to see if it will remove a hindrance or at least mitigate. And I'm going to stick with it. Okay. I'm going to be mindful. And I'm going to try it. And after a certain period of time, if you do this every day, you may say, oh, I'm less irritable. I feel a little better about so-and-so. I am happier. I am less stressed. I don't have so much boil in my water. It's settled down. It's easier now to meditate. So if we get the principle and we add the practice, we can possibly overcome the hindrance. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds perfect.
All right. So I'd like to hear some more discussion about it.
Can I?
Yeah, Marjorie, does
I don't
that
mean
help
to
at
sound
all?
Negative at all, because that was perfect, but it seemed a little linear.
A little what?
Linear, a
Mhm.
little
Straight line.
that it's a personal issue. So all I'm really dealing with is myself and my thinking. What happens? And let me just talk about me without sounding funny.
Sure.
Don't hold it against me.
Speak up so it goes on the
Don't
computer.
hold it against me. But when I get into that doubt thing, it's hard to. It's not a back. I doubt myself. It's that I have learned by listening that, gosh, I can be wrong. I can be wrong. I can think certain things, and
Yes.
then it turns out differently.
Yes.
I'm sure about the Hunter Biden thing being just poof, and no, it's not. It's real. So it was like, oh. So with my life experiences, the older I get, the more I want to listen, the more I want to learn, the more I want to be willing to change. But all of those positive qualities make it almost more doubtful of making a decision, of making something that I'm
That's
just
what I'm
putting the
talking-
stick in the ground. And so what happens is I do this waffle, and I try to be compassionate, I try to like everybody, and I try to work it out. But I've done this my whole life. I'm the middle child. I solve the family problems. I'm Pollyanna. I mean, it's kind of, at first when I was young, oh, I fix this, but it's burdensome, and it's like, I don't know how to do it, because if I do it, I'm going to become an old frumpy bitchy. This is the way it is, and I'm comfortable with it. And
Well, I
I
think
just don't know how to balance it, I guess. Or
it's balance. There's a word for it. You talk about awareness.
Mhm.
You need to relax.
that.
You know, you don't need
Chill out.
chill out. Chill out. That's serious. You need to relax. You need to let go of the need to be right. You need to give yourself permission to make mistakes, to be wrong, to be whatever happens. Let go of concern about the results. How do I say that? Let go, it's not the results. If you have something you need to make a decision, make the decision without concern. But if you make the decision, make it on the principles. Remember the 3 principles about making a decision. 1, is it skillful? Will it do what I want it to do? Will it make me happier, smarter, prettier, better fed, whatever? Is it healthy? Is it wholesome? If it's not healthy, maybe I better not do it. And 3rd, is it beneficial to me? Now, this is where you may not know. You may say, I might make the wrong decision, and then all hell's going to break loose because I made the wrong decision in a peacemaking family, and now there's going to be war. Okay, whatever. That's where you have to let go of the results. Use your principles. Skillful, healthy, beneficial to yourself and hopefully to others. Make the decision and learn to breathe and relax. I don't know how to say it any more than that. So I leave
Can
it
I
to
can I
you.
can I add one thing
Please,
to that
take
as
it
I
over,
as I
'cause
think about what
I'm-
you're both saying, and that is the listening that we do has to be this listening.
Inside.
The inside listening. Yeah, that's what I was doing with my hands. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
okay,
should
that's what I
describe this.
thought. I was
So
imitating like one monkey.
the internal listening is the way out of too many choices, too much noise, too much input, and boy, I need to solve all this out here. That's what I'm hearing you say. And instead, listen here, and then you make your best guess at what your choice should be,
Right.
and you commit to it. And if you're wrong, you're not wrong. You followed your intuition, and then you make another choice. You go to plan B.
It doesn't make you a selfish person, though, just by
Selfish in the good way.
In a good way.
Selfish in the good way. Like yes, there's a head and tail side to the selfish coin. If you're going to live with yourself peacefully and wholly, happily, you got to pay a lot of attention to yourself.
I have a question. Marjorie, you say you're the peacemaker in the family.
Unintentionally, but
Who assigned that duty to you?
it just, I
What did
can't
she
stand to see people I love fighting, so I always reach out.
So
to them.
you decided
Oh,
that.
I do this to myself. But
Okay.
you know what? Something just popped into my head, possibly.
Good.
This woman, my mother, that I put up on a pedestal, who was just an amazing person. Maybe this is her fault. She was so selfless. She was so freaking selfless. So generous to us children. She wasn't perfect, but she was just a beautiful piece of light. But to the detriment of she never took time for herself.
She
She never took time for
She never
herself.
took time for herself.
Oh, she was a martyr.
No, she never came
Was
out
she
of her
happy?
mouth, nor did she act as a martyr. But
No. But she did martyr
she did.
herself.
Her
She gave
social
herself
life was
up for
small.
you.
She didn't do girlfriend stuff, and that was my female role model. So maybe I can blame her.
And you can't live up, maybe you can't live up to her
I don't know. I'm
example.
just trying to figure it out.
Good.
Well,
Well,
no,
that's
no,
good.
yeah,
It's good.
But
It's a good journey in. It's a good journey inward,
it's
where you have choices of changing the role that you've assigned to yourself. If you assigned it, you can unassign it.
ooh, I like that.
Mhm.
Can I add something?
Yes, please,
So-
speak up so sure.
Yeah, this reminds me of this
Yeah.
book that I read. It's called Untamed. It's by Glennon Doyle. And in Untamed,
Mhm.
Untamed, yeah, she is a mom. She stays in this marriage that she doesn't want to be in for her children.
Mhm.
And then there's a certain time when she asks herself, is the life I'm living one that would be good enough for my kids?
Mhm.
Would I want my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, to be living the life that I'm living right now?
Mhm.
And the answer was no. She wasn't
Yeah.
being true to herself. She is a lesbian. And her husband cheated on her multiple times and she kept forgiving him. And so then what she decided to do was, instead of trying to be of service to her children, she kind of flipped it and tried to be a model for them. And tried to model, okay, this is the type of life that is meaningful and true. This is how you honor yourself. And so like doing that for her, then the entire family started to live with much more intention. And then she found a partner that like makes her come to life. And her husband and they got divorced. And they kind of came to this consensus of like, hey, our marriage was never anything really great. It was always trash. And we forced ourselves together because of what we thought we were supposed to do. And so then they separated, and the separation was like a little rocky. But then they come to this place of creating something new that they never could have imagined. And they have this beautiful family now where it's like the ex-husband and then the two moms, and then like he's finding love, and like it's not the traditional, this is what it's supposed to look like. It's
Well, that's where
personal to
somebody
them.
gives us these ideas
Yeah.
of how it should be.
Yeah.
And then we fit ourselves into someone else's mold.
Can I say one thing?
Mark.
My mother was the same way. She was a martyr, but in a way
In a
that
nice way.
no, and not in a. She
No,
was
hers
a
in a
martyr.
non-nice
She
way.
was a martyr, but she was never happy, and she turned to alcoholism. She goes, I'm not going to spend any money. This is all for the children.
Yeah.
But she was the most unhappy person in the world.
But where was your doubt in this?
Where was my doubt?
Where was your doubt in
I have no
dealing
more
with
doubt.
this?
I've dealt with it.
You have dealt with it,
Yes.
and your doubt was how far you had to go before you did the things that were right for you, which is what you're talking
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there is your
Mark has something to add.
mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
I hope I'm not letting the kitten out of the box too soon.
But
It's okay. We're chatting now. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. We started this conversation with Buddha nature.
mhm,
It began with an unstoppable, unknowing love.
uh-huh.
And to what you are saying is that you want to share and express that love, but all the times that you keep stepping in and doing something, have you ever done that before? Like every situation that you've stepped into, I'm going to present to you as being new.
You are?
It's a new thing. You've never experienced. There may be similar things that you have done, but for you, it's a new experience, or you wouldn't worry about doing something wrong.
I don't worry about being wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying
I worry
that.
about not. I worry about not being able to make a decision. You know what I mean?
Okay, so thank you.
And it's not right or wrong that worries me as much as, and it's not just family. I mean, it's my life. To make a decision for me, it's like I got to listen to everybody and judge it. I work too hard at it, and that self-doubt.
Ah,
takes
that's
up
a
so
really
much
interesting
time
statement.
that I'm
You
missing
have to
out
work at
on
it. It's
the,
bad from the beginning.
So I'm confused then, because on one hand you're saying you can't make a decision, but you have no doubt. Did I hear that?
I'm not sure.
So you're in a situation where you're about to do something, anything. And if I'm understanding the Buddha nature correctly,
Yeah.
what we're talking about is energy just expressing itself. And these areas that you're going into as the middle child trying to resolve family dynamics, you're moving into situations regularly where you're experiencing something that you have not experienced before,
Correct.
or you're repeating an experience that has not come to a clear or positive resolution. So it's this ongoing problem, which means whatever decision you're making may not be unfolding the way you anticipated.
No, not the second part. My family really is pretty. The family was one example of me
I'm
finding
still sticking
myself
with
in that position.
Right, having to make a decision.
Yes, it was just
Not
an
being
example.
sure if it's the right decision.
Exactly. So
And
it's not
so-
overwhelming to me. It's just a person. It was an example of the personality of having doubt about. For example, there's this thing going on now, Osa Viva, about the burning and whatever. And I want everybody to get what they want, but I also realize there's some real communication stuff going on. So I'm thinking, oh, I can bring them together. And I'm like, why am I doing this again? You know, why
That's a
am
good
It
question.
was your role.
Yes. And so that's how I
That's a good
friendships,
analysis.
when I see people not getting along and judging and, you know, so it's not just family at all.
No,
It's
but
just,
I was using
why
that as
do I-
Yeah, that was an
Using that
as the
example he was
template.
using.
So what I'm trying to hopefully convey is what I'm hearing Ruthie and Jeff say. And what they're saying is that you're moving into a situation where you have to make a decision,
whatever it is.
whatever it is.
But just use those three
Yeah.
criteria and take yourself out of the equation. You know what? That's what we have cushions for. That's why this is circular. The wisdom teachings, the ethics, you have to have the principles. They're what you're basing your decisions on, are your principles. And then having those, you're mindful and you learn to let go of it. I would like to jump in here and say that in terms of Buddha nature, we talked about the bowl as a reflection of our own true selves. But Buddha nature, I didn't bring with me the beautiful description of it from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. But Buddha nature is basically, or not basically, light. That we are energy that is clear light. It's positive energy, it's clear light. And this is what invigorates us, it's what gives us our vitality. And when he was dying, the Buddha's, I think he's his cousin also, his number one disciple, Ananda, was just like, what are we going to do without you? How are we? I mean, the Buddha had taught for 80 years, or until he was 80 years old. And, Ananda was just desperate. And Buddha's words to him were, Ananda, be a light unto yourself. In other words, I've given you what I had to give. Now be a light unto yourself. You're always thinking about what your light is going to be for somebody else. Maybe just be a light unto yourself. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But in other
That's
words,
exactly what I was saying.
Exactly.
okay, is that
Same, all the same
But
thing.
anyway,
Yeah, I think
our
that-
true nature is pure, unalloyed. You used alloys last time as an example. Unalloyed, unpolluted. And you don't need to second guess that. You have to know that is the essence of who you are. And all the rest of it, so is your add-on, and whatever you add on, what Jeff is saying is you can take off.
Mhm.
If you worry about the outcome, you can stop worrying about the outcome. You can let it be what it's going to be. I don't know. I'm not saying that very well. But doubt is part of everyday life. You cannot avoid it. We're just not sure what's going to happen, whether we made the right choices, the wrong choices, what else is going on in the world. So you have to actually work on being comfortable with uncertainty. You cannot have black and white.
Yeah.
So you better relax. Tell a good joke. You know, whatever. Okay, help me out here.
No, I think that's right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this like, I don't know, right now the idea of non-attachment, because you're talking about we are essence of light.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm thinking about everything that is human, that we attach value to.
Mm-hmm.
And so is a way to like surrender and accept this, does that have to do with non-attachment?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, how? Like, how do we exist as humans with all of these human feelings and be essences of light? Like, how do we do that?
Well, Mother Teresa said it very well. Mother Teresa said, "You're unique, just like everybody else." You know.
Yeah.
So we each are our own lights,
Right.
but we're a collective as well. Every one of us is a piece of a whole.
Can I add one word?
Mhm.
Practice.
Practice, practice,
You
practice.
practice detaching from these things that are impediments that we've been talking about for 2 weeks now. You practice not attaching to those. And in that detachment comes your answer. But it's over and over. It's creating new habits in our mind.
Uh-huh.
That's
what-
where
that's what-
that's where this all always leads us to. That it's about changing your mind.
And remember, we can change our mind. It's called neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
Even old people can change their mind.
What an
You
idea.
know? This is a wonderful thing to know.
Yeah.
You know, because when I grew up, they said, give me a child until he is 7, and then his life is set, and he's going to be whatever he is for the rest of his life. That's not true. That's not true.
So do you know if the body, because like I feel like my mind, so for example, there's certain things that my mind says, oh yeah, that's not in my control. Don't worry about it. And then my body is like guilt, shame, feelings.
Then you go to your cushion and you deal with that.
Okay. So you just, like, feel
You
through it.
identify it and you release it. And then you replace it. I really like the 3 R's.
Uh-huh.
You know, then you can't leave a void in that spot that you've now vacated. You need to fill it with compassion, loving kindness, love. When you do that, now the circle is full. Now it will be so much easier to follow through on what what your mind and your intuition is telling you is right for you.
Trust your intuition.
Trust it.
Yeah.
You will more and more.
Yeah. Me and my intuition were best friends.
Yeah.
Ram Dass gave a wonderful talk about it. In fact, he spent his whole life as a spiritual seeker. And he had tried it all, done it all, and all the rest of it. And when it finally was coming to fruition, it came down to 3 words: love, serve, remember. And he said, I had to go all the way to India to figure that out. You would think it would not be so hard. We hear it. And that's a very important word in Buddha nature, is we don't have to repent because there's no sin, there's ignorance. What we're doing is remembering who we are before all the things that clouded our bowl. Go back to remembering who you truly are.
Because that's where you're going to return.
That's
as well.
where you're going to return.
Start there, you return there. So
See?
why not play it in the middle?
Yeah.
I wonder how many people have this experience that you take on too much, right?
Mhm.
You're concerned with too many things and they're all boiling around in your head. You're starting to
That
make
was one of the
lists and
impediments that you were
stressing.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you've ever been in a
Yeah.
position of, I call it, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Just let it go.
You think of a long string on Facebook or something, and there's a furious argument going on, and you're part of it, and you just say, "I've had enough of this." Good
Yeah.
luck with that. So you sign off. It's such a feeling of relief,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and I think the trick of life is to figure out the things you can let go, and that you're fighting your head against the wall with, and they're stressing you out, and replace them with something you can do
Right.
for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Like go to lunch with friends. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Two
Take
seventy
time
five
out.
about.
Well, think of the hindrances. You've got two of them. One is sloth and torpor, and one is restlessness. They are polarized opposites. One is dull and listless and of no use whatsoever. The other is frantic. And one is moving too slow and one is moving too fast. So here is where all the emphasis comes on equanimity. And maybe, Marjorie, you could start off with just a little equanimity. You could say, I'm only going to be half as conscious of whether or not I'm making my family happy. Not all of it at one time. That's too big a change. I can change incrementally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mindfulness. I think we all,
That's
it
mindfulness.
catches up with us and we don't even realize we're doing it until you're at that stress point. It'd be nice to recognize it a little bit earlier
Totally.
and see what's going on.
That's why you
And that's-
continue to practice it. It is so that it moves earlier and earlier in the equation
Yeah.
of things. Then you don't live with regrets
Right.
because you've applied the principle directly over the practice of the things.
Because
And
the other thing in the family is that if you're misfixing it, and people will dump all their problems on you. That happens. And one of the things that I admire Sandy for is to say, create some space.
What say
Create
little
some-
create
some
space.
Just say, good luck. Hope that works for you.
Yeah.
Just put the problem back on you because you can't solve it. You
And-
can't solve everything.
And the decision there is, oh, am I being harmful by doing that because they're used to me doing something else, and, or am I being beneficial? You're usually being beneficial.
You last week I did the quote about detachment that it is let's see if I can say it correctly, that it is about not personalizing things but leaving these things to the natural law of cause and effect. You do that? Okay.
Or just move to Costa Rica.
Well, that's a choice.
Take your phone number.
In mental health, schizophrenia is about hearing too many other voices.
That's your
And-
problem.
And you can't find your voice, you can't find your way, you can't make choices and those things. And
You're
and
paralyzed.
you're paralyzed,
You're
and to a different degree, family systems, the world, the media, all of the things out here, our friends, our neighborhood, where we live, all those things are many, many voices. But at the end of the day, if there's too many voices that we can't find our voice, then these practices are to find your voice first, your unique voice.
Can I comment on that too?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, in the past, I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. And I started doing this thing called internal family systems. And so you talk about these different parts, right? And so in this practice, you acknowledge those parts. So the part of you that wants to be the helper, and the part of you that wants to be the person who has all the right answers. And there's like a separate part from self. So self is, there's like 8 C's, which is like calm, compassionate, other things I can't remember,
Buddhist.
curious, and there's these like
Mhm.
parts of self that are like centered. And then pretty much the way that they describe it is that the trauma has turned these parts that were once core self into protective parts. And so, for example, anxious is a part that I talk to all the time, and sadness, where at one point my body needed to be anxious so that I could survive my trauma.
Yep.
And so now the part of healing is to not shame anxious, because at one point we needed her, and to let her in and to welcome her and to say, hey, anxious, what's happening? And so that way that she presents in my body is like certain ways. And so it comes back to the awareness of like, okay, this is my anxious self.
Mhm.
Anxious self is different than self, right? And so being able to talk to anxious self, help her heal, and help her incorporate back into self and become part of not a protective part, but that core self and that voice. And for me, that separation of knowing that like this anxiety or this envy or whatever is not self, that is really helpful.
It is helpful.
Good. That's,
And
that's
when
really
it
nice way of
works,
looking
yeah.
at it too.
When it works, then you have experientially made it yours.
Yeah.
And until you do that, that's what we talked about at the beginning. Until you have experienced it, it's not yours. So be skeptical about yourself and whatever else. Now, I don't know where we are.
That's, I think it's about time.
It's about time. And anybody else, I did want to say today that in being skeptical, everyone sits in a group like this or other groups and they hear what's being said and they just go along with it. And it pays to listen and question. Mark and I were, and Lisa and I were talking on the way over that I have always kind of wondered but never inquired as to why we define enlightenment as liberation from suffering and the realization of a lasting happiness. Now, doesn't the Buddha teach us that nothing is permanent? This too shall pass. So why is his definition translated as lasting? And you go back and you realize when you think about it that the word for the 3 meditation steps is samadhi. These are the samadhi steps. You have the wisdom steps, you have the ethical morality steps, and you have the 3 wisdom steps, or I mean the 3
Meditation.
samadhi steps. We always translate samadhi as concentration, but it has 2 other major definitions. One is unwavering, and one is steadfast. So when we talk about a lasting happiness, you could also define that same word as a steadfast or an unwavering happiness. That's really a whole different thing. So if you want to practice with skepticism, you can start by listening. And when you hear something that you don't think sounds quite right, you can check it out. Now we have a whole string, I'm going overtime now. We have a whole string of things. In the first Noble Truth, we talk about dukkha and we just call it suffering. That's not really what the word is. It means dissatisfaction. So life is not just suffering, which sounds really grim. It's just that it's not satisfactory. We all have all these problems. In the second Noble Truth, we talk about connections. And what was the one I was thinking of? Attachments. Well, you know what? The attachments are not necessarily bad, but you don't want to disconnect. And desire. Oh my God. The whole Western world went nuts on Buddhism because it didn't understand desire. It thought you weren't supposed to have any desires. Well, you can't not have desires. So that was a sticking point. So you have to make inquiries as you go along as to what the words mean. When you get to liberation, it does not mean that you exterminate suffering. You cannot exterminate. Secession in the third one. You can't exterminate. You transform and you transcend. But you're not supposed to kill it because you can't. Opposites are always there. Anyway, here we go.
Whew. Take
Finish
us all.
my thing to think about. But it's really simple. Love, serve, remember. Be kind. We don't really have to say much more than that. So I guess we'll do a loving kindness. Nicole, do you know how to do this? Just listen to me. You have to do that anyway. That's an imperative here. So anyway, I'm going to say a sentence, and then you repeat it to yourself. Okay, and I'll tell you who it's to. So if you'll bring us in, everybody. Anybody need to stretch? It's kind of a long session. Go ahead. Give it a stretch. Take a deep breath. Just relax. Take another deep breath. See your reflection in your bowl of clear water. And say to yourself, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. And now bring to mind someone you love with all your heart. Look at that person. Smile at them and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, with a smile, you can blow them a kiss if you want. You move on to your neutral person. If you do not know his or her name, simply address them as friend, as somebody you recognize, but you're not really close to them at all. And to this person you say, dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, you take a really good deep breath. You consciously relax yourself. You bring to mind someone with whom you are in conflict. You don't like them. They don't like you. You have a grudge that's new or old. But you look directly at them. You smile and you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, taking another breath, you take your hands, you place them over your heart. Symbolically, it's the only place big enough to take in all sentient beings everywhere. There are 8 billion or so of us on just this one little planet. We don't know how many more there are out there. But to them one and all we say, may all beings everywhere, on this plane and all other planes, be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And now we hold these feelings of goodwill as long as we wish. If we're at home and here, we release our hands, open our eyes, smile at our friends, put our hands together in prayer position. And I'm going to say a sentence and you're going to reply. You're going to say it after me out loud. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
Bowing to the mysteries.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank
See you next week.
you.
Okay, guys, there you go. Is it? Is it
Yours
clear?
got a dinger.
Yeah, you're great.